Hello and welcome back to the Consistory of the Coelc YouTube channel. I'm your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. We're up to plague number 9, the plague of darkness, coming from Exodus chapter 10 verses 21 through to 29. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hands towards heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness to be felt." So Moses stretched out his hand towards heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days, and they did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days, but all the people of Israel had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh called Moses and said, "Go, serve the Lord, your little ones also may you go with you, only let your flocks and your herds remain behind." But Moses said, "You must also let us have sacrifice and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also must go with us, not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take of them to serve the Lord our God, and we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me, take care never to see my face again, for on the day that you see my face you shall die." Moses said, "As you say, I will not see your face again." Now obviously, we're taking out the sun god with this plague, and there's a lot that I could say about the sun god here, but we're really just going to focus on the plague and skip down to something that is very interesting. And the fact is that this is not just a blacking out of the sun. See, liberal theologians like to say, oh, this is thick sandstorms. Some people might say it was just thick clouds. Some people would associate with a solar eclipse. But no, God said there is no light. There is darkness so thick it could be felt. Nobody moved, nobody had light. You'd think the Egyptians didn't try lighting a fire? Of course they would have. It didn't work. As the Lutheran commentator Paul Kretzmann said, it was a supernatural, miraculous darkness so heavy that all light from whatever source was cut off. God has stopped the photons from working. There is no light. If you lit a fire at this time, it would produce heat, but not light. This is like a reversal of the first day of creation. And this is important because the Egyptians, like many ancient societies, worshipped a sun god. And they see the sun as the source of light because currently the sun is the source of light. But it's not the only source of light. We can get light from electricity, light from fire, light from lightning. And so the sun is not light itself. I mean, there's stars out there. The sun is not the only source of light. This is why you get people, the evolutionists that like to mock Christians, say, oh, well, how could there be light without the sun? You're connecting the substance light with the source of light. But light is itself a thing even without the sources that produce it. Light are photons. Yes, those photons need to be created by something, whether it's the sun, fire, lightning, electricity, take your pick. But light is not the sun. The sun is just something that produces light. And this is why people point out it's so important that God created the light and the sun on different days to show the difference between them. And we can see this again here. See, the Egyptians, they worshipped the sun god. Now what is interesting is that there are different schools of theology. We touched on this in previous studies. But the Thebes or Theban denomination of Egyptian mythology, they were unique in that their main top god was Atum, who is interesting because he was like this transcendent god. He was the first god, the uncreated god, the unlimited god, like an omnipresent god. He was often not connected with the sun at all, but with wind being more like, spiritual. Atum was more like a cosmic energy, much more similar to the God of the Bible. And then what happened is you get later people that change this. There is later the worship of Atum. Aten. Aten was like, with Akhenaten, he tried to have this monotheistic God. Yes, that sounds like the God of the Bible, except the only thing was he was monotheistic. Atum was still identified with the sun. And Atum, he was something different. He was above beyond, separate. He wasn't connected with the sun until the 18th dynasty, which is believed to be the dynasty during the reign, or during the time of the Exodus and the time of Moses. And what did the 18th dynasty do? They, in order to kind of win over the people, they were Thebans, so they worshipped Atum, but the more popular cult of Ra is what the people worshipped, so they united Atum and Ra to create Atum Ra, and they associated Atum now with the sun. Atum, who used to be above the sun, beyond the sun, this all-powerful God, was now associated with the sun. And so most ancient societies see the sun as the ultimate. And here God is coming along saying, no, I am God. I control light. It's not the sun that gives you light. I give you light. And I'm going to remove from you not just the sun's light, but all light. Even the light produced by fire. See, this is something that John Calvin picked up when he says, what a severe plague this is. That light is something enjoyed by all people. As Jesus even says, God sends his sun to shine on the believer and the unbeliever, the righteous and the wicked. And so John Calvin says this is a severe judgment from God, that he removes from the Egyptians something enjoyed by all people, so that they are left with the ability to see with the eyes, but they have no light to see with. They can only see darkness. Like their eyes are open, but it's pitch black. And so, really the only other thing I can say on this plague is this little argument that Moses and Pharaoh have, where Pharaoh says, alright, go. You, your children, and take your kids with you. But leave your livestock behind. And Moses says, no, we need to take them with, because we've got to worship and sacrifice with them. And some scholars see this as a ploy from Moses. Just, trying to always forcibly make Pharaoh angry by adding and adding and adding. But this is not something new. We already had, at the beginning, Moses said we need to go out and sacrifice. We had with the plague of flies, I believe it was, where Moses made the big point of saying we can't worship in the land. We have to leave the land because you people are going to find our sacrifices abominable. And we even had in the last plague, the plague of locusts, where when Pharaoh says to Moses, alright, so who's going? Moses says, we need to take our young ones and our old ones, our sons and our daughters, our flocks and our herds. This isn't some new thing Moses added. He was always taking the flocks and the herds with him. What this is Pharaoh trying to have some kind of power. And this has happened repeatedly. Pharaoh lets the Israelites go, but he says, you can go, but you have to worship in the land. Then he says, okay, you can leave the land, but stay close. And then he says, alright, you can leave the land, but only the men. And then he says, alright, you can leave the land, you can take the men, you can take the women, you can take the children, but the animals stay here. And this is Pharaoh. Yes, it is somewhat of a ploy of trying to make sure the slaves come back. Like if their children are here, their families are here, their livestock here, they have to come back. But it's more than that. It's theological. This is a religious fight. Pharaoh was a god king. He saw himself as God. It's his way of saying, no. I'm in charge here. You can go and do this worshipy thing of your God, but I'm the boss. See, this is the thing. The Pharaoh is kind of the head of the Egyptian pantheon. He's the representative of all the gods. He's like, I get to dictate how people worship here. You can go worship your God, but you got to do it how I say. You can't just do your own thing, Moses. But that's not how God has it. God's like, no, Pharaoh, you keep exalting yourself. I'm in charge. And that's going to lead to Pharaoh's downfall. So I'm going to wrap up our Bible study there, and we're going to wrap up our series in our next video when we get to the 10th and final plague. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye.